This is not a joke, okay? In the continuing comedy of errors that is the Donald Trump campaign, Trump has hired former Republican presidential candidate and de facto hypnotherapist Ben Carson to help select the eventual vice presidential candidate as part of Trump's VP selection committee. You can no longer distinguish reality from a satirical news headline. But yes, Ben Carson, who suspended his own presidential campaign several months ago, ultimately endorsed Trump in March. Carson, I guess, is in a way an ideal person to have involved in Trump's campaign. He has said that the outcome of the Holocaust would have been different if Jews had had handguns. He fabricated a story about being admitted to West Point. He said he believes that the real reason that Egyptian pyramids were built was to store grain. And he compared advocates of marriage equality to pedophiles. So, in a lot of ways, Lewis, there is no better person than Ben Carson to involve in this amazingly abortive and hilarious Trump campaign.
Well, as Carson had said before, uh, there was kind of a deal made
Yes,
between Trump and Carson about some type of position in the administration,
right,
and it seems like Trump is keeping his promise. So there's at least that what Carson called an advisory role
right.
type thing happening here.
I wonder who will be the most qualified VP candidate as recommended by Ben Carson. Remember back in
Jesus.
1999 or 2000, in early 2000, Dick Cheney, then CEO of Halliburton, was in charge of George W. Bush's vice presidential search committee. And Lewis, Dick Cheney carried out an extensive search. He looked high and low. He looked under rocks and at the tops of mountains for the best possible VP candidate for George W. Bush. And after giving his recommendations to George W. Bush, he ended up being selected himself as apparently the best option to be George W. Bush's vice president. Can you imagine Carson coming to Trump and saying, I have gone through all possible candidates, and I've been able to come only to one conclusion. I am the best option. Is that a possibility?
Yes, definitely a possibility. Would be a pretty big mistake for Donald Trump because who really cares about Ben Carson? Nobody. It's not going to help you win against Hillary or Bernie. No way.
Trump has hired Ben Carson to pick a vice president, and Carson has hired an entire team of people to wake him up every few minutes so he can keep searching the internet for potential VP candidates. Can we say with certitude that Carson won't come back and recommend Sarah Palin? Is that completely off the table?
I no, I don't have much faith in Carson for anything, but I know he won't. He won't go that far.
Nikki Haley, the Republican governor of South Carolina, part Native American, has been mentioned as a potentially good choice strategically. The only problem is, seems she despises Trump. She was actively hostile to him during parts of the Republican primary. I would actually love a Carly Fiorina selection because Carly would then have a chance, Lewis, of losing three times during the same presidential election.
That would be a spectacle. Yeah.
Most of the shortlists, though, have already said no thanks in some way, or at least said they're not particularly interested. Not everybody has. There's New Mexico Governor Susana Martinez. How does a Hispanic female governor maintain credibility on a Donald Trump ticket? I mean, it's almost a goof, isn't it? The idea of a Hispanic woman, New Mexico governor, being on the anti-woman, anti-immigrant Trump ticket.
Yes, or does her being on that ticket instantly make it a pro-female,
Right.
pro-immigrant ticket?
The
I think
identity
that would actually be a
politics.
pretty good idea.
Taking the identity politics approach. Hey,
Yeah, well,
I've
that's
got
how
a
we
woman
play
there.
this game.
Got a Hispanic woman there. I'm not anti-immigrant. I'm just building a huge wall that I'm going to make Mexico pay for.
A Hispanic woman on the Donald Trump ticket would do way better than
Carson.
an African American male who is asleep.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, I think at minimum, his VP candidate has to stay awake or appear to be awake. I think that that's a pretty reasonable bar.
Or at least keep people awake while interacting with them.
Either he or the audience needs to remain awake for it to be even remotely effective.